If you can systematically build an audience around yourself and what you stand for, your ability to build a long-term sustainable business and make money will be much, much easier. And in this video, I'm going to explain why that is and how you can do it. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to click the subscribe button below, as well as the bell icon to be notified whenever I post a new video about how you can build and grow your online business. So 10 years ago, I started what I call an audience-first online business. And since then, it's generated millions of dollars in profit with just a small team and hardly any money spent on advertising. I've also consulted with dozens of others and helped them do the same. And I'm excited to help you in this video. So what is an audience-first business? An audience-first business is a business that centers around your personal brand. In other words, you. The business or monetization component usually comes after you've built your audience to a certain size, and there's good reason for that, which we'll get into. Audience-first businesses can be small and highly profitable, like a super specialized consultant, or they can be large and diverse, like a popular podcast that gets millions of downloads per month. Now, there are many examples of audience-first business models, but here are some of the most common ones. First, we've got YouTube. This is the obvious one. If you're building a YouTube channel and you're trying to make a living on YouTube, you obviously need an audience, right? You want people watching your videos, you want people subscribing, you want people to share your videos, and so on and so forth. By definition, it is an audience-first business. You cannot make money without the audience. Another example, coaches and consultants who have a strong social media presence. This is an audience-first business. You build up an audience, you put out content based on your expertise, and then you sell your services, whether they're coaching or consulting or something else. Closely linked to this is the course creator, info product, sort of solopreneur model, where you're selling products to your audience that are detached from your time. So maybe it's a self-paced online course that you're selling for $100, and there's no cap on how many of those you can sell. There are quite a few e-commerce businesses that are centered around someone's personal brand. So Bare Performance Nutrition, while it's a much bigger supplement company now, at the start, a lot of the growth was driven by Nick Bare's YouTube channel. So you can find a lot of e-commerce businesses like this that are built around one person. And then we have podcasts. Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan, all these big podcasts. That is the business. They sell advertising. And obviously, it's an audience-first business. It's an audience-centric business. So let's take a look at why I recommend that you build a business this way, especially if you're an expert and especially if you want to build a lean business that has high profit margins without needing a massive team and without needing to do a ton of management and so forth. There's this tweet from James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits. I'm sure you've heard of that book. And he sums up why audience-first businesses are the way to go. He says everything is easier once you have an audience. Launches are simple, opportunities come to you, plus attention is flexible. You can direct it toward any future project. Also, I'm not interested in managing a big team, and one person with a big audience can still make a splash. The first line here is the most important one. Everything is easier once you have an audience. This has been true for me. It's been true for many others. So let's have a look at 5 reasons why you should consider the audience-first business model. The first reason is that having an audience equals serendipity. Opportunities come your way. When you have an audience, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or across multiple platforms, and you're putting up content, people are going to take notice. Conversations will be started. Ideas will be shared. Opportunities will come your way. And as your audience scales, so will inbound opportunities. So you might post a video or you might post a tweet thread, which gets the attention of some, 8-9 figure entrepreneur over here, or maybe it's a potential employee that wants to work for you, or maybe it's someone else in the same sort of niche as you who wants to do a collaboration. This stuff happens when you have an audience and you're posting content. It doesn't happen when you're not doing that because no one knows who you are and no one's seeing you pop up in their feed. So that's the first reason. When you have an audience and you're posting content, opportunities will inevitably come your way. And then it's up to you whether you want to take advantage of those opportunities or not. But it's a lot easier than having to go out and create those opportunities from scratch. Now, the second reason why it's a good model is that having an audience enables you to pivot easily and whenever you want. When you start a business without a personal brand, it's difficult to move on to something else. You often have to start from scratch again. With an audience-first business, people follow you because of you, which means you can pivot basically whenever you want. You can jump from a declining business to a new one. You can quickly validate ideas. You can launch products to an existing audience without wondering how on earth you're going to get your first sale. A good example of someone who's done this is Ali Abdaal. He started out making YouTube videos on medicine and med school. And as his channel grew, he started to pivot and he made more general YouTube videos about personal development, productivity, life, business. Now he runs the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, which is a cohort-based course. He just launched a stationery line. And so you can see that having an audience of his size, it just allows him to quickly start new businesses, new projects, all this kind of stuff, which is just extremely difficult to do without an audience. Another example is Nat Eliason. Nat started with a personal blog. His blog grew, got a lot of traffic, and he used this, his expertise and his background, to scale Growth Machine, which was an SEO and content agency, fairly quickly, launched an info product, his drone course, which I think made over $400,000 on launch. And then he pivoted into the world of crypto and DeFi with an audience in place. So if you're like me and you can't see yourself doing the same thing for 40 years and you can't see yourself just running one business only for the rest of your life, then the audience-first business model is the way to go because it allows you to experiment with a bunch of different things and quickly pivot to new projects that interest you and excite you. That is not an excuse to quit early though. You still need to persevere. You can't just jump from business to business to business when everything fails. But having an audience does enable you to kind of get back on your feet faster, cut your losses early, and validate ideas quickly. Now, the third reason, which is one of the most compelling reasons why an audience-first business is so good, is that it solves, at least in part, the marketing and distribution problem. So other than finding product market fit, which is creating a product in a good market that customers will buy, one of the hardest problems to solve in business is distribution and marketing. In other words, how do you get the product in front of people? There are multiple ways to do this. You've got paid advertising, SEO, partnerships, events, so on and so forth. The list goes on and there are pros and cons to each of these. But when you have an audience and you have a personal brand, you basically have built-in free distribution. Your marketing costs can be so much lower than competitors or zero. You don't have to spend anything. And there's a ton of examples of this in action. We've got Bulletproof Coffee. Dave Asprey, the founder, has a big personal brand and he clearly drives a lot of the growth of that business through his content. Otherwise, all you need to do is look at these popular Instagram influencers and see how they set up businesses around their brand. So there's someone that my wife follows, her name on Instagram is Sarah's Day, and she has a huge Instagram profile, I think over 1 million followers. She has her own activewear collection, app, natural skincare products, protein supplement, and a bunch of other stuff going on as well. And so this is a business built around a personal brand, which doesn't require all these different marketing channels because her brand is so strong. She's got that audience in place and she's essentially a monopoly of one, which leads me to my next point, which is reason number 4. And that is that you don't need to compete when you have an audience-first business. So there's a quote from Peter Thiel in his book 0 to 1, which I love. He says, competition is overrated. In practice, it is quite destructive and should be avoided wherever possible. Much better than fighting for scraps in existing markets is to create and own new ones. Now, Thiel is talking specifically to startup founders in this book, but we can apply this to audience-first businesses. Where you can avoid it, you don't want to compete with other businesses. It's a hard game to win. You want to create a monopoly. An audience-first business is a monopoly by default. It's a personal monopoly, a monopoly of one. Again, if we use Nick Bare as an example, he has a supplement company, Bare Performance Nutrition. Now, there are tons of supplement companies out there, and if you're entering the space, you better have some sort of differentiating factor in order to compete. But if you have a strong personal brand, you can drive a lot of sales and a lot of growth by leveraging your audience, which is what he's done. Committed followers of Nick and BPN are more likely to buy BPN supplements than another brand over here, all else being equal, just because they like the person behind the business. Escaping competition is a good strategic move, and building an audience-first business enables you to do just that. Now, the final reason is that it gives you job security, or a better term is business security. So this kind of links back to my second point about being able to pivot quickly and easily. The problem with non-audience first businesses is that you've got all your eggs in one basket. And if that business fails, then you're kind of kicked to the curb and you have to start something fresh, and you don't have any leverage usually. But if you've got a strong audience, you've got longevity. You can have a business fail and then start a new one and make money fairly quickly because you've got that distribution and marketing in place. You can do consulting, you can launch projects, you can promote other people's products and get a commission. There's always a way to make money from your audience. And so you've got more sort of security and longevity by building an audience first business. There is one caveat to this, which is that with an audience, you can post something that offends someone and then get cancelled. So I would say you should try to avoid that. By the same token, being polarizing is quite a good way to build an audience. So you could do that instead. I'll leave that one up to you, but whatever happens, don't blame me. So we just looked at 5 reasons why building an audience first business is a good move, but are there any downsides to this approach? Well, there are a few. First of all, unless you build under a pseudonym, people will know who you are, and this can bring unwanted attention. That's something you have to take into account. However, if you're building in a small niche or a certain industry or market, you're not going to become world famous, and that may be fine for you. You will likely get haters. That's just something you have to deal with. And also, running the content machine that's required to build an audience this way does take a lot of time and effort. It's a part-time job, sometimes a full-time job, and it can also take a while to see results, whereas in some other business models, you can start seeing results a lot quicker. So it does take a long time. But if you can deal with these minor downsides, the upside is limitless. It's an asymmetric bet that you should probably take. Okay, so we've looked at why you should build an audience first business. Let's quickly talk about how you can do this. I will make a dedicated video on this in the future, but for now, here's a 5-step process that you can use to start building your audience so that you can later build a business around your audience. The first step is to take action and get the ball rolling. You do not want to overthink the process here. Building an audience takes a lot of time. Your time horizon needs to be extended. This is not something you can achieve in weeks. It's probably not something you can achieve in months either. It usually takes a year plus to gain traction doing this. So don't psych yourself out at the very start. Just take action. And if you're not sure which niche to pick or what you want to talk about or what your personal brand should be around, just don't worry about it. Just put out content that you want to put out, that you're interested in. And over time, you can narrow this down and figure out what works. If you feel you have nothing to say, then just remix other people's content. Look at the people who you follow on Twitter and on YouTube and look at their content, talk about it, make a video about it, quote the tweet and add your thoughts to it. There's nothing wrong with doing this. Finally, if you have no expertise or skills, then document your learning journey. Let's say that you want to learn copywriting and you want to eventually build a business in the copywriting space. Well, document your journey. Put out videos and content about how you're learning, the approach that you're taking, This stuff is valuable to people, and often they like seeing that stuff more than an expert because it's more relatable because they're trying to learn as well. You just need to put out a lot of content. And I'm not saying that you should sacrifice quality. You shouldn't intentionally put out average content, but you are more likely to hit the mark if you're putting out 3 YouTube videos a week than if you're putting out 3 YouTube videos a year, even if those 3 a year are a lot better. Likewise, if you're putting out 1 tweet thread per month, you're not going to grow anywhere near as fast as if you're putting out 3 or 4 per week. It's a lot more work. You're getting more shots on goal. Quantity over quality, I think, should be the approach here, but don't sacrifice quality too much. One thing to note here is that when you start out, you don't know what type of content is going to hit. You just don't, and that takes time to learn. So you should take more shots on goal. You want to refine your workflow. You want to get into the flow of content production. And the thing is that 90% of the content you put out is probably going to go nowhere. But the 5 to 10% that does go somewhere can be life-changing. And so you want to take more shots at goal. You want to put out a lot of content. Third tip is to scale and repurpose your content. So you want to create one pillar piece of content and then repurpose that into dozens of other pieces of content. So let's say you make a 12-minute YouTube video on a certain topic. You can then take the script for that YouTube video and turn it into an article to post on your website or on Medium or Substack. And then you take that article and you convert it into, let's say, 2 or 3 tweet threads. And then you take the original video and you convert it into 3 or 4 Instagram clips or Twitter clips, and you post that to your social media profile over the course of 2 weeks. And so one piece of content, which is the original video, has now been spread out and become multiple pieces of content that all lead back to the original piece. Tip number 4 is to be deeply involved with your audience and respond to as much as you can. The best way to build an audience that actually likes you is to have two-way conversation. You don't want to be the person who's putting out content and never likes or responds or interacts with the audience. No one likes that. So the better move is to be involved. Respond to as many people as you can. Every comment, every email, help people out, start conversations, continue conversations. It's way better to have 1,000 true fans than 10,000 not so committed fans. And the 5th and final tip is to hack existing authority. It is hard starting from scratch trying to build an audience. One way to speed up the audience building process is to leverage other people's audiences. The best example of this is Meet Kevin, huge YouTuber who I'm sure you know. I remember when he started, he was putting up videos criticizing Grant Cardone and kind of leveraging Grant Cardone's audience to create that. And that worked really well. And now look at him. So there's multiple ways you can do this. You know, you can create a response video on YouTube, or you could do an authority hacking video where you say, here's how X person achieved Y, and you break down the strategy that they used. So it's educational as well. They're likely to share something like that. You could start a podcast and get people on who have an audience and encourage them and ask them to share clips when the podcast comes out with their audience. And so you get some exposure by doing that. You could quote tweet threads and build on top of them. There are endless ways to do this sort of authority hacking thing. Get creative with it. But definitely consider it, especially if you're starting from scratch and you don't really have an audience at all. So to sum it up, audience-first businesses are the way to go for multiple reasons. First of all, because audience equals serendipity, opportunities come to you. Audience-first businesses allow you to pivot easily and quickly. Having an audience solves the marketing and distribution problem so that you don't have to spend much money or any money on advertising and other marketing channels. You don't need to compete when you have an audience. You have a monopoly of one, and it gives you longevity and business security. To get started with building an audience, make sure that you take action and get the ball rolling, that you put out a lot of content so you get more shots on goal, you scale and repurpose your content, you be involved with your audience, respond to everything, and finally, hack existing authority, leverage other people's audiences to supercharge the process. I believe audience-first businesses are the future, and if you're someone who likes the idea of teaching, of creating content and making a good income without a huge team and without a ton of overhead, then it's the way to go. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and comment below. I would love to hear from you, and I'll see you next time.